Hello everyone, welcome back to the lecture series on magnetism and conduction of physics. Today we will be going to discuss a new topic that will be magnetism in metals. In this topic, the magnetic properties of metals will be considered. In the previous lectures, we have concentrated on interacting but localized magnetic moments. But the conduction electrons in metals are delocalized and they can wander freely through the sample. Thus, they are known as itinerant electrons. In some cases, the magnetic moments in metals is associated with the localized electrons, while in some other cases it is associated with the delocalized electrons. In both cases of localized and delocalized electrons, paramagnetic and diamagnetic behavior can occur. But ferromagnetism is possible under certain conditions only. We have seen the ferromagnetism in localized electrons in the previous lectures. Now we will see in the case of delocalized electrons, the ferromagnetism occurs only when the certain condition is satisfied. This condition is also known as the Stoner criteria. We will talk about it in our upcoming lectures. We will also see that the paramagnetism in delocalized electrons is associated with the spin of electrons, while diamagnetism comes from the orbital contribution of electrons. Now, before going further, one must need to know the free electron theory and the band theory, and we have discussed it about this in our solid state physics course. Now, in the upcoming lectures, we will see the magnetic properties of the electron gas, which includes Pauli's paramagnetism, Landau diamagnetism, and the origin of RKKY interactions, etc., which occurs when the localized magnetic moments interacts with the electron gas. So first of all, let's talk about the free electron model. The free electron model treats the conduction electrons in metals as a gas of non-interacting particles moving freely inside the crystal lattice, which are subjected only to the boundary conditions, and the periodic potential is ignored. It utilizes the Fermi-Dirac statistics instead of classical Maxwell-Boltzmann, thus accounting for the Pauli's exclusion principle. Here, electrons occupy discrete energy levels up to the Fermi energy at the absolute zero. Now, electrons in a 3D box occupies a volume of LQ, and they have quantized wave vector as nx 2 pi by L, ny 2 pi by L, and nz 2 pi by L. So therefore, the energy of each state is given by h square k square divided by 2m. So therefore, in free electron model, each allowed quantum state corresponds to a point in the momentum space. For that, you can imagine the 3D lattice of points in the K space, each representing each possible electron state. And the boundary of occupied states forms a sphere in the momentum space, known as the Fermi sphere. So that inside this sphere, all states are filled, and outside that sphere, the states are empty. Here, each allowed state occupies a volume of 2 pi by L whole cube. So therefore, the number of states between k and k plus dk will be given by the volume of the spherical shell divided by the volume of one point in the k space. Now the volume of a spherical shell will be given by 4 pi k square dk, and as the volume of one point in k space is given by 2 pi by L whole cube, so therefore the number of states between k and k plus dk will be equal to 4 pi k square dk divided by 2 pi by L whole cube, and the simplification will give, and as L cube is equal to V, so this will become, but since the electrons have two spin states, So therefore, there must be a multiplication of 2. So therefore, we can write the number of states between k and dk as gk dk equal to vk square dk divided by pi square, where this gk represents the density of states. The density of state essentially counts how many quantum states are available to a system within a given energy interval, and it is given by dn by de. Now you can also calculate the density of states in the momentum space by substituting p is equal to h cut k, and thus dp is equal to h cut times dk, and you will get gp dp will be equal to 2 times 4 pi p square dp divided by h cube times the volume. And if you want to know density of states in terms of energy, then you can substitute E is equal to p square divided by 2m. So therefore, p is equal to under root of 2me, and therefore dp will be equal to under root of 2m divided by 2 root e times de. And if you substitute these values here in this equation 2, then you will get ge de equal to, and the simplification will give these three equations for density of states will be very useful in the upcoming discussions. Now the total number of electrons is obtained by integrating the density of states multiplied by the occupation probability. So therefore n will be equal to integration from 0 to infinite Ge Fe dE, where f of E represents the Fermi-Dirac distribution and g of E represents the density of states. Here the Fermi distribution function is given by 1 over exponential raised to power E minus mu divided by kT plus 1. Now before calculating equation number 4, let's try to plot the Fermi function as well as the density of states as a function of energy. So for temperature T is equal to 0, the Fermi function looks like a step function, where its value is equal to 1 when the energy is less than the chemical potential, and it becomes 0 when the energy is greater than the chemical potential. But this is the situation only at absolute 0. But if we increase the temperature, the curve will look like this. At temperature T is equal to 0, the derivative of this curve will be a Dirac delta function, centered it at the chemical potential. But at finite temperature, it forms a Lorentzian or Gaussian line shape. Also, let's try to plot the density of states as a function of energy. Now, just few minutes back, we have defined it the density of states is proportional to the energy raised to power half. So the graph of density of states as a function of energy will look like this, which is a form of parabola. Now, as in the equation 4, there is a multiplication of density of states and the Fermi distribution function. So let's combine these two plots. So that till the chemical potential, the behavior will be like a parabola, but after that, the multiplication factor will be 0. This is the situation at temperature T is equal to 0 Kelvin. But for finite temperatures, you will see something like this. Now let us consider the situation when the temperature is 0 Kelvin. And let's try to solve equation number 4. Now if you see equation 5, if you substitute T is equal to 0 Kelvin, then you will get 1 over exponential raised to power e minus mu divided by 0 plus 1. Now this exponential raised to power e minus mu divided by 0, it can be 0 or it can be infinite in two situations. Now if energy is greater than the chemical potential, then E minus mu will be positive, and in that situation, this will become e raised to power plus infinity. So therefore, it will be something like 1 divided by infinity and it will be 0. And therefore, f of a will be 0. But if energy is less than the chemical potential, then E minus mu will be negative, and in that situation, this will become e raised to power minus infinity plus 1. So this will become 0 plus 1, and this whole term will become 1. This represents the same step potential as shown here in the graph. So therefore, equation 3 will give n as integration of 0 to infinite Ge Fe dE. And you must remember that at 0 Kelvin, the chemical potential is equal to the Fermi energy. And since all these states are filled up to the chemical potential or the Fermi energy, the limits of integration will be from 0 to the Fermi energy. And we have to integrate of this density of states only. Now, since the expression for the density of states in terms of energy is difficult, so therefore we will use the density of states in terms of the k vector, and the Fermi energy is replaced by the Fermi wave vector. So, if we substitute the value of g of k from equation number 1, which is a very simplified version compared to this equation 3, so we will get v divided by pi square into kf cube divided by 3. And if we assume that the number of electrons per unit volume is given by small n, then the Fermi energy is given by h square kf square divided by 2m. So therefore you can see that this small n is proportional to EF raised to power 3 by 2. So therefore the number density is equal to the sum constant multiplied with EF raised to power 3 by 2. And if you differentiate this, then you will get dn is equal to c times 3 by 2 EF raised to power 1 by 2 and then dEF. Therefore, if you divide equation 9 with equation 8, you will get dn by n is equal to 3 by 2 EF raised to power minus 1 times dEF. So therefore, dn by n is equal to 3 by 2 dEF by EF. Now, if you remember that I have defined the density of states as dn by E, so therefore at Fermi energy, this value will be equal to 3 by 2 small n divided by EF. So this represents the density of states at the Fermi energy. Now we can substitute the value of n and EF from equation 6 and 7 so that we will get the density of state at Fermi energy as. So the simplification will give the density of states equal to MEKF divided by pi square h square, which shows that the density of states at Fermi energy is proportional to the mass of electron. And if you have watched our video on band theory of solids, then you must remember that this mass of electron is not a constant quantity in the case of lattice. And in the case of band theory, we have seen that this mass of electron is replaced by the effective mass of electron, which is given by h square divided by the second order derivative of the dispersion relation. So therefore, in many systems of interest, the electron's mass is enhanced above its free space value. and it occurs because of the band structures or the interactions. Now, in free electron theory, the energy of the electron is proportional to k square. So therefore, this forms a continuous parabola. But if you consider the effect of periodic potential due to the lattice, then you will see that there is some discontinuities corresponding to the Brillouin zone boundaries. At such points in k-space, the energy gaps appears in the dispersion relation. And in the lectures of band theory, we have seen that how band theory was able to distinguish between semiconductors, conductors, and insulators. And we have seen that if the chemical potential lies within this band gap, then the material is a semiconductor or insulator, depending upon the band gap, so that there will be no Fermi surface. So therefore, there are no available states at this energy, so that the Fermi surface doesn't exist. Now in metals, this chemical potential lies inside any of these bands. Therefore, the electron partially fills a band, allowing a free movement and the conduction. So therefore, the metal is a material with a Fermi surface. Now, before ending this lecture, let's see the degenerate and non-degenerate limit of this Fermi function. So first of all, let's talk about degenerate limit. It is the limit corresponding to low temperatures, so that kVt is very less than the chemical potential. Or you can assume that it is the situation when the temperature is very low. It is approaching to the 0 Kelvin. And in this situation, the quantum effect dominates due to the low thermal energy. So if you remember, we have defined our Fermi function as 1 over exponential raised to power e minus mu divided by kBt plus 1. And in the limit t tending to 0, we have seen that this approaches to a step function with value 1 for energies less than the chemical potential and 0 for energies greater than the chemical potential. So this means that all states below chemical potential are fully occupied. This is the situation seen in many metals at almost all temperatures below their melting temperatures. So therefore, the electrons in metals are known to be in degenerate limit. The second situation is known as the non-degenerate limit, which is corresponding to when E minus mu is larger than the kVt factor. So in that situation, the exponential term in the Fermi function will be very large compared to 1. So you can drop 1 and you will get the Fermi function equal to exponential raised to power minus of E minus mu divided by kBt. So if you see here, this is a exponentially decaying function, which resembles with the Maxwell-Boltzmann statistics. So therefore, in the non-degenerate limit, the Fermi function is reduced to Boltzmann distribution function. In this situation, there is no sharp distinction between the filled and the empty states. And this is relevant for semiconductors or insulators at elevated temperatures. Now this is it for today, and in the next video we'll talk about Pauli's paramagnetism, Landau's diamagnetism, and Stoner criteria. So thank you so much for watching this video.